Hello, and good afternoon to all of you. I am Michelle Fowles, and I'm the founder of Lemonade Legend. I specialize in amplifying the voice of women who have gone through really breakthrough moments in their life. So they are people who have made lemonade out of lemon. They have found a vision much stronger, more powerful than their fear, and they've been able to create some beautiful things out of those challenges. In some cases, they're still going through challenges, but they're finding ways to really break through that to make a powerful story. Uh, so with that, I also want to remind every one of my listeners that I am putting out a book next month. I am collaborating with 18 other amazing women, and that this is the Lemonade Stand series where we are featuring each and every author to kind of give a little tidbit of their story. We're not going to give you too much information on that. We're really just going to kind of find out more about who these authors are in the book. And today, my guest is Vickie Mudra. I want to make sure, I'm peeking because I want to make sure I got the name of your business right. Vickie Mudra, the founder of the Institute for Deliberate Practice, which I love that because that could mean a lot of things. And you're going to tell me what that means to you. But first, let me say welcome, Vickie. I'm so pleased to have you here.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you've been on board. You were one of the first to get on board with the Lemonade Stand.
I was.
That journey has been going since about May, and everyone has had their different reasoning for wanting to jump on board and be a part of what is turning into a pretty powerful kind of movement and organization. But tell me a little bit about why you decided to join.
Yeah, glad to. So from our first conversation, I fell in love with the image of the lemonade stand and all that represents from the first time I heard about the project. I remember having a lemonade stand as a kid. I'm sure a lot of people do. And the image that comes to mind for me is community. I always had a community of my friends and other neighbor kids who would gather around to ask me how much money I'd made. People were always interested in that. There was always a community of adults that would come out and support me. And I just remember people being willing to give me a quarter for one of those little Dixie cup filled with my sweet and tangy beverage. Sometimes it was a little sweet, sometimes it was tangy. I never could get the recipe right. But yeah, so community. I love the idea of being part of a community. The other image that came up for me when I was talking with you, and I remember this in our conversation, was just Lucy in the Peanuts cartoon. And I don't know if a lot of people know much about Charles Schulz, the cartoonist, obviously, and creator of Peanuts, but he had a great insight. I've always admired him. And so I connected with what he was trying to do with Lucy in the Peanuts cartoon. He had great insight into human emotions and interrelationships. And he was able to share that, I think, with the world through the eyes of children. And I always could relate to him because there was a story, if you ever research him, behind the Lucy character and her lemonade stand. And a lot of people, he went through a lot of teasing as a child. He had a lot of teasing and taunting on the playground. And then he went through his awkward teenage years. But as most of us know, he grew up to be, a very dignified and respected commentator on the nature of human spirit. And so I'd like to think that while in this project, I certainly can't give psychological advice any more than Lucy could for a nickel. I felt honored and I just felt blessed to be invited to share my stories. I think by sharing my experiences, sharing my heart with the readers, and then sharing my belief that people deserve to celebrate their great work. And I think people are called to give and be the best versions of themselves. And so I just saw this collaborative book as this beautiful way to do that. So that's my long answer.
Well, you said that amazingly well, and I'm going to go back to that just a little bit because that's really meaningful to me of what you shared. Because picking a title for a book is not an easy thing, and it was a collaborative effort, and we had I tell you a list way long, and the lemonade stand resonated with all of us. But I'll tell you why I had the end say so, and I said, that's it, the lemonade stand. And you hit, and not many people do this, you hit on it all, because, it is that first entrepreneurial experience that most people have. It is so much about community. I really saw that too. I saw the father who's finished with lawn mowing, and then he's going, I'm going to go get a cold drink of lemonade, and meanwhile another neighbor walks over, so they're all having a little a community gathering. But Lucy was kind of critical for me for a lot of reasons. First of all, she brought some humor into it. Mm-hmm. And as people read this story, they're going to see that there's a lot of humor. I mean, there's tragedy, there's all kinds of obstacles and difficulties that are part of people's life, but everyone has a sense of humor. They're all able to put that in there. And the other thing about Lucy is that I don't care what your situation is, there's always some element of mental illness that is a part of it. Not to say everybody has mental illness, but we all deal with stuff in our head.
Stress can be if it's not managed and processed, can manifest into something. So yeah.
Exactly. So I love that you brought all of that up, and I continue to try to put that out there too, so there's a good understanding of what the whole the title means. But it's not just about the title; it's about what's in the book and the different stories. And I will say that one of the beautiful things about this is the diversity of the situation. So each and every woman out of 19 women, we have an amazing diversity of situations and issues and how they've been dealt with. And yours is unique, and I don't want to give away the farm, so I'm only giving you enough time to give a teaser out there as to what's one of the things that you would like to put out there that is part of your story.
Yeah. So for me, it really was something that there was a lot of things. There's a lot of stories that I share, and you have to read the book. But for me, it was really the response from my mother that resonated, and what as I was writing, I found to be my consistent theme. My mother, so I shared a difficult secret with her when I was 13. And she said a phrase, she said 4 simple words. She said, "You have a choice." And as I was going back and reflecting on my life and preparing to write, I recalled hearing those same 4 words just over and over throughout the years, whenever we would face a difficult situation. So it wasn't just one situation. It really was how my mother kind of showed up in my life during all of them. And I never truly understood what it meant, or what she meant, until recently, as I've been going through some other seasons of challenges in the past few years. And so that phrase really started taking on a whole new meaning. And even 10 years after she passed away, I'm still hearing those words about my own personal agency and choice when we're faced with challenging situations. So for me, it wasn't just one story. It was really how my mom and that phrase and that idea of choice kept showing up and continues to show up in my life.
Well, I have to say that that was a great piece to share, because this isn't just a book about what was my one obstacle, how did I get through it. For the most part, this is a book about what separates the people who are able to push past that fear, that obstacle, that challenge, and make something positive out of it, and be able to take that path of courage. And so that's why I think that was a great piece to bring up, because I want that message to resonate, that this is a book about people having obstacles. Everybody has obstacles. Name me one person who doesn't. I can't come up with anybody. But there is something that separates, and I want to be careful with my choice of words, but really kind of separates the people who, choose courage, or, choose the positive way. And the other interesting thing too that I'll bring up right now is, I'm not trying to be exclusive of men necessarily, because I know a lot of great men who have a lot of really good stories. But one of the things that, in my experience through podcasting and talking to women who have a similar situation, is that it's not even just getting through it. It's that most women have a complete mindset change, that they don't just go back to living the way they were.
Right.
They become something more powerful than what they were.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And that's really a great segue into kind of, what I'd like to share next.
Please.
Yeah. So I had a big aha. I mean, that was absolutely brilliant what you just said, because the big aha for me came as I'm writing, as I'm reflecting. I haven't written a book before until this, because I didn't want it to be a story. I didn't want to write a story about all of these things that have happened in my life. That's not what I wanted to write about. And so I've found that I kind of held back and didn't lean into writing, even though it was something I wanted to do. And your invitation and the community and just the way this whole process has unfolded, it created this beautiful space for me, Michelle, that I was able to have this big aha. And what that was, and you used the word, it really opened my eyes to the role that courage has played in my life. I think I always knew I was resilient. I always was able to bounce back, right? But in the process of really writing my story and writing for this chapter, I looked at the difference between resiliency and courage. And when we think about the definition of resiliency, it's the ability to recover or bounce back from something. And I think as women, you said it really well. I think we are good at that. We can flex, we can kind of, we can be stretched and bent and compressed and, squeezed. And we can bounce back, even at the effect of something that's happened to us. But courage, on the other hand, I think is having the mindset, and again, you use that word, we're in sync here. Yeah. I think courage is having the mindset and the spirit to face danger, not to have it sneak up on you and get it, but to actually see fear, see uncertainty, see the burning building and go in anyway, right? And so again, the difference lied in going back to those 4 words from my mom about, we have a choice, and no matter what happens, we should always strive to be resilient and rise up. But even more importantly, I think she was inviting me to consider how I would actually emerge from the situation, deliberately choosing how I wanted to come out on the other side of whatever the event. And so it wasn't just bounce up, but how do you want to be as you're moving through the experience, not just the event, but the effect that the experience has on you. You still get to choose. And so I think that's my big aha.
So do you have that thought process of how you want to come out from that, or what's on the other side for you?
Yeah. So for me, so I'm a longtime student of the theory of deliberate practice. It's the name of my company. It coming out of higher education and healthcare education, I've seen firsthand the increased levels of technical competency and clinical excellence as deliberate practice is used very widely to improve human performance. And we see it in elite athletes, but also in healthcare clinicians. You know, the ability to deliberately practice brain surgery, you know, can happen in simulation in ways that it couldn't happen before we had ways of doing simulation, right? And so I decided to, over the past few years, I've decided to apply these theoretic principles of purposeful and systematic practice combined with coaching and feedback, because, you know, again, a great athlete, every great athlete has coaches, right? They have a team of coaches, not just one. And I started to consider the possibilities around personal and professional development in other areas like emotional and conversational intelligence, decision-making, relational competency. So not just the physical and technical skills, but I got really curious about how we could take what we know about improving physical performance and apply the same theory to what we often refer to, and I hate this term, soft skills. And that's how my business was built.
That's pretty fascinating. Okay, I'm going to give you a hypothetical patient.
Okay.
I'm not sure you're going to like this one, but
okay.
It came across when you were speaking, you know, a few minutes even before just now. And I thought of the Wizard of Oz and the lion.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought about is that, of course, we always have this image that lions have courage. It's like inborn that they had the courage. But in the Wizard of Oz, that wasn't the case. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, when the wizard gave him his courage, his symbol of courage, he still didn't have it. He had to choose courage.
Yes.
And he chose courage because he saw that Dorothy was in trouble and that it was like, you know, I have to choose this because I love Dorothy. I need to save her. So the hypothetical patient, what are some of the things that you would take? Because you would think that the lion then, okay, Dorothy is saved, everything is fine. Is he going to continue to go on with a courageous attitude? Or is he going to need that kind of mentoring and coaching to really, truly understand what courage is and how you choose courage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So if you remember, he actually had it. He just didn't realize he had it because he hadn't chosen it. And so, you know, just like the Tin Man always had a heart, he just had to learn and he had to raise his awareness, right? And so for a lot of us, I think it's waking up. I think it's asking ourselves, what if I had courage? What would that look like? I think it's asking people to reflect on times in their life when maybe they did demonstrate courage, but they didn't realize that's what it was. And so I think that, yeah, I think part of it is awareness, and it is inviting people to ask themselves about what other choices do they have. So, quite simply, one of the things that I always tell people, is make 2 lists. So what do you have that's in your control? Then make some decisions about that. Go put some energy around things that are actually within your control. And there's so many choices that we can make. And yet I ask them to make a list. What are the things that are challenging, fearful, that are not within your control? And what's happening when you take energy and you try to put it towards that? And so quite often it's just having an awareness of what is within my control and what kind of decisions, what kind of choices can I make? Another thing that I find, and I think this might have been the case with the lion, is, believe it or not, some people, I believe, need permission. And I know that sounds really crazy. I was giving a keynote at a state chapter of a Massage Therapy Association back in the fall. And one of the first questions I asked the group was how many of them had had a massage in the last 6 months. There were less than 10 hands that went up. And so I said to them, okay, I want to write you each a permission slip for self-care, for getting a massage, like you deserve that. So I think it's a lot of those things, but it's really looking at what are the choices that we have, and are we diverting our energy away from the decision making that's within our span of control, because we're trying so hard to control the things that we can't change. We have no choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So what are your plans for the next part of your journey? I don't know if you really kind of ended and are starting better. So let's say, what are your plans for moving forward as you journey through so many different situations?
Yeah. Thanks. I love that question. So I left my corporate gig a year ago. Actually, it's ironic. It'll be a year and 2 days that I will celebrate my my departure from a job that I loved, a job that was very, very important to me. I did really meaningful work, and I had amazing relationships. So, but my personal mission is to advance the knowledge and the deliberate practice and evolution of care and communication in ways that positively transform the way people lead themselves and others. So I really want to, work with leaders, but remembering that we are all leaders. Even if we don't lead teams, every single person is a leader, because at the very minimum, we lead our own lives. So we are leaders of our own life at a minimum. And then my vision. So my vision for my company, I really want to reignite that energy, engagement, and overall effectiveness in mission-driven organizations. So again, people can celebrate their best life and their best work. I think everybody deserves that. My purpose, I wake up every morning and I just kind of keep the eye on the prize. My purpose in life is to love unconditionally and inspire joy and courage and connection throughout the world. I really feel sometimes that I should be walking around with a prescription pad or a permission slip saying, I'm giving you a permission to experience joy. I believe in possibility and joy in the workplace. Yeah, I believe
that'd be fun. I just had this image. Let's go spend an afternoon. I don't know. Pick a place here in Phoenix, where we both live, and just spend an afternoon handing out these slips.
Let's do it.
I wonder.
And a little Dixie cup of lemonade. We could set up a lemonade stand, and instead of passing out psychiatric help like Lucy tried to do, we could give joy slips.
And it won't even cost you a quarter.
No, it won't cost you a quarter. I love that, Michelle. I'm so there.
We need to pick an afternoon. I'm like thinking that, yeah.
I'm there.
Because the thing is, I don't know, I think we've gotten so far away from thinking about kindness and generosity and giving ourselves permission and taking care of ourselves. And I had the most wonderful podcast with Elena Porter, an author in the book. And we talked a lot about just kindness. Just be kind for a day. Pick a day, one day. Just be kind for a day.
Yeah.
That's not amazing, but it is. But the concept is amazing because even if you're trying to do that, all it takes is some little irritant and, it goes out the window.
Yeah.
And that, if we all just practice that a little bit more,
yeah.
It would be a beautiful place.
Yeah, I love that. I participated this year in Lady Gaga's 21 Days of Kindness. And it was a big movement. And I was interviewed about, what would that look like and what could I do for 21 days? So yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree.
That would be amazing. So we talked about the kind of difference you want to make and, what you see out of this book and the outcome. And if we've left anything else, this is a good time to segue back into that.
Sure.
Is there more you would like to say about your participation in the book and what you're doing in your life work?
Yeah, just, I think there's so much we can't change. There's so much that we cannot change. And speaking of change, there's also change happening all around us that even good change, it's still change. And you talked about mental illness at the beginning of our conversation, and stress, even good stress is still stress, and it still has a chemical impact on the body. And so there's so much though that we can't control, and there's changes happening. But I do believe that it starts with connection. I'm a big believer in community and relationships. I think relationships are the most important thing. Relationships are more important than work. They're more important than anything else. And I think that through heart-centered conversations, through true connection, I'd like to see leaders and teams regularly exploring, what's working for them, paying attention to their culture, making sure that there's, community support, that there's fellowship in the workplace. Like, what does that look like? It's employee engagement, but in a broader and deeper way, I think, than what we see sometimes. And so I think particularly in healthcare, again, coming out of healthcare and higher education, and really any human service organization, anybody that's serving from themselves, I think there's this sense that joy and success are mutually exclusive. And I just want to say they're not. You can have joy and you can be a success and effective. You can have it all. It's a choice though, right? So happiness is on the outside. Joy is something on the inside. And we get to choose what's on our inside. Nobody gets to choose that for us. I just want to invite leaders to ask themselves, what if it could be different? What if you went into your arena every day armed with joy as your weapon of choice? What would that be like?
Wow. What would that be like?
Yeah.
So I don't want to misspeak, but I'm going to tell you what I've heard you say about what you're doing for let me look again. Institute for Deliberate Practice is that you more integrate. I know so many coaches who are out there with how to change your life. And then there's the coaches that are how to be successful in work, and there seems to be a bit of that separation. What I'm hearing from you is that you're blending the two. Am I on target with that?
Yeah. You can't have an organization, you can't have a workforce without people. It's people first. And you can't, it's using the airline adage, we cannot serve others And again, in healthcare, I've been known to say in this, you know, I get a few eyebrows, and that's okay. I call BS on, you know, patient-centered care sometimes, because we want to give good care to our patients and our customers, any kind of service business, you know, customers first, patients first. And yet we forget about ourselves. And so you've got to put your mask on. You can't drink from an empty cup, and you certainly can't serve others from an empty cup.
Right.
And then the other piece that is different, I think, and again, I've seen this work, and so often it's not considered, and that's first team. So it has to be self-care first, and then it has to be care for colleagues. It has to be first team. Only then is real excellence sustainable.
Right.
Only then do you have a workforce that is mission ready, that is, you know, compassionate, they're engaged, they have pride, they have commitment. And so when they can care for themselves and they can care for one another's, your patients and your customers are going to be well taken care of.
And pretty amazing. I'm so excited to have you on board, Vickie.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We have, you bring a very unique perspective that I just love to hear about. And like I said, we're all unique in our own ways, but we all have a very common thread. And I think that's what makes this such a great community. And I'm going to, as I wrap this up a bit, I'm going to go back to what you were saying about community. And here's been the surprising thing to me, that I had this vision for this book, and I very much wanted to get it out there. And so I started the process of finding women through referrals and whatnot, you know, very organically trying to, you know, get the right people. I didn't want to put a Facebook ad out and see what showed up. I wanted to get the right people on board. And I have, I mean, amazing people. But here's what I did not expect. I did not expect the community. I did not expect the instant acceptance and love and support that came about simply because we were all connected and committed to the lemonade stand. And so to what you just spoke of, yeah, it is important. And if somebody doesn't have a community, they need to find that. And it's part of my secondary vision that the lemonade stand can become something greater in terms of a community of love and of support and acceptance. Because I am for the first time really appreciating how important that is.
Yeah, we have an innate human need to belong. And as I've you know, developed my business over the past year, I can do coaching and consulting. I am a certified coach. I can do those things, but I think what really gets me excited and what I think is needed is the education and community building. And so if I look at kind of the 4 pillars of how I want to build my business, it's the education and then the community building and support. Again, there is I don't think there's a substitute for community and for fellowship. Yeah. And it looks different in, you know, in different parts of your life. But we have a need to belong. It's part of our human nature. Yeah.
Amazing. So excited to have you here. I always feel like I want to like just thank people 1,000 times. And I've learned that I can't keep thanking you forever, but I give you my heartfelt thanks for being here and for being a part of the Lemonade Stand and for your continuing participation. Yeah. It means a lot to me.
Well, and thank you, Michelle, for your vision and for starting this initiative and bringing this community together. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And with that, I encourage and hope everyone will stay tuned to our announcements as they are forthcoming on the launch of the Lemonade Den, and what the community is doing, and Lemonade Legend, which will continue on beyond the series of the Lemonade Den to give voice to people who have had those breakthrough moments. And in fact, if you are one of them, contact me, and I'd love to consider having you as a guest. So for now, we'll say goodbye, and but we're out here. We're out here for you and for everyone, to be a support group for anyone who's having that struggle. So Vickie, thank you. And I hope you have an outstanding rest of the day, wonderful week.
Yeah, you too.
And we will be talking